Hi, everyone. If you don't know me, my name is Sonia Miller. I'm a fulfillment and empowerment coach. Hey, Irene, glad you could make it. And I help accomplished professional women who keep settling for less to make the small shifts that bring big abundance. So I'd like to welcome everyone who's here live and will be checking out the recording. This is a brand new live Q&A series where I'm interviewing clients who will be sharing about the small shifts that have been bringing bigger abundance in their lives in the realms of relationships, money, and work. So the reason I'm doing this is to provide you an opportunity to gain access to tips and ahas and insights and next steps so that you can actually do the same for your own life. So again, thanks for saying hello. I'm going to be inviting questions and comments, and I would love, as you have ahas or questions, just post them in the comments section. We will be circling around at the end of this interview and responding them, and I'll also give you some ideas for next steps and tips that you can take into your life as a result of today. So this is my first one. I've got a whole series lined up. I'm really excited. So thanks for your patience while we warm up to this. All right. So today I'm interviewing Thelma Putzel, and Thelma and I have known each other for quite a few years now, both through helping each other with some events. Thelma's helped me with some of the events that I've done, and we've worked together, really focusing on nurturing personal fulfillment. So things that are meaningful on the inner world, and also surpassing your limits to make a bigger impact in your own world. So with that, I think we'll just jump right in. Thelma, thanks for being here.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So let's start with this. How about if you share a little bit about who you are and what is your profession, purpose, or passion?
All right. So as you had mentioned, you and I have crossed paths probably for a number of years ago. The role that I currently hold is I work for a high-tech software company in sales. I'm someone who carries a quota. My role specifically is in selling education, if you will, to companies that actually acquire our software. It's a role that I've had probably for the last, I don't know, nine years or so. Prior to that, in my career, I started off as a developer and then moved into kind of a consulting role. So I've always been in the realm of high tech throughout my career. During COVID, I added a life coaching certificate as well. So with encouragement, of the folks around me and working with you and seeing the value of coaching. So I've included that. My purpose and my passion has always been something. I think that's how you and I started. Like I came to you with, I need to find my purpose in life kind of a thing when we first started working together, but it's kind of morphing. And right now it's looking like working with sales folks and helping them to realize that selling and being in that sales role can be easy and is all in contribution to, the things I've learned from you.
Yeah, I've loved hearing about how you've been bringing these principles into sales. And I work with a lot of people in tech and sales, C-suite leaders. There's a lot of hard work and a hard work culture, and it's so deeply ingrained. So I'm so excited about what you're going to bring today with your experience. All right, so what's my next question? All right, I'd like to kind of set the stage. So I'm talking here and I'm kind of framing these interviews from the perspective of what are the small shifts that can bring big abundance? In other words, what if it was easy? And so one of the fundamental shifts that we always start with in my campus and the work that we've done is a small shift, but it's really profound, is understanding the difference between what I call a doing model of power and a being model of power. And so we've done a lot of work around that. I'd love it if you could share what it's meant to you to explore and understand the difference between the doing model of power and the being model of power.
I think from a doing perspective, once I had joined one of your receive calls on Thursday, and I think you had talked about it, but once I kind of understood that I was always doing, like always problem solving, I think and as you grow up in your career, you realize that I was realizing I was always problem solving, and I was always problem solving to create what you coined as, or had taught as, transactional value. So I do something, and in return, I get the feeling of feeling more valued, which was very transactional. And that to me was something that I was doing all the time, from a people pleasing perspective to I got to get this done just so that I look good, my numbers look good, everything looks good. I realized that from a doing perspective, and then learning the being perspective of actually stepping back and not jumping in immediately, but taking the time to just I'm not going to eat problems, or the reason why your quota is not, your pipeline's not big enough, stepping back and just saying, wait, just wait and stop, like you talk about. That experience is when things have flourished for me, is when I actually do that. So just the difference of acting and not acting has been huge.
That's great. That's great. And I love how you talked about the very first piece of that simple shift to stop, notice, and stop. Stop. And how hard that is for so many of us when we're supposed to keep going and going, and we're not supposed to. If I take my foot off the gas, everything's going to fall apart. And we haven't even had enough space to even think what happens when I stop? How is that even an option? How could that possibly be productive or good? So I love that you highlighted that very first.
What's interesting is with my team now, if I can get a sense of somebody getting wrapped around the axle, or my team knows now, if they're doing that, they're like, I'm going out for a walk. They immediately know so as a leader, I've stepped back and said, I want you to do this now. Go out and do something else. Go breathe, go do yoga. I don't care what you do, just step away, because nothing's going to happen that's going to be productive if you hang out and continue to work in that essence or behavior or fashion. Yeah.
Love it. So I'll just ask you, since I haven't been in corporate for a long time, but you've been there for right now currently, and so taking the temperature, the pulse of what the culture is like, do you find that, do you think that that's a rare thing as a leader, especially in a profession, sales, that tends to be very heavily on hunt, go find and hunt? Would you say that as a leader, that's a more rare bit of support that you would offer your team?
Yes, definitely is. It definitely is. Yeah. To actually step back instead of step forward. And yes. Okay. But it's interesting, because I think what happens is, I have, stories and all the time of when they step away, when they take a vacation, the deals that come in is crazy. It's like you need to take vacation more often. I should go on vacation more often, right? And well, build your pipeline and then go take a vacation. Yeah. So, yeah.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for that. Okay. So now moving into a little more personally, how would you describe the small shifts that have made the biggest difference in your own life?
So, one of the things is when I realized I was doing more, right, I was able to kind of create my boundaries of where, so that I wasn't, and start to work less. But the real shift came when I was able to work less and not step into something and not be triggered as much with guilt. Right. I think that a lot of times when we're still stuck in that transactional value of I do, so I get value, it's hard to step back and not do anything and you feel the guilt, because you also feel like, well, am I not providing value? Then at that point, then it becomes a self-worth thing. And, so that was one of the biggest shifts. But I noticed that the less I do, and when I do, and if it's more inspired, it's just more fruitful, right? Because the intention from where I'm coming from and the essence from which I'm coming from when I am trying to sell something or close a deal is different than when I'm trying to close a deal out of desperation, right? If you will, kind of a thing. The other thing that came up, I think, is protecting my joy at work. that was a big, just those words was a big shift for me. Because I mean, 40 years in my career, and I'm like, have I ever protected myself, my joy at work? Right? Like, how do I protect my joy at work? Do I take a walk? Do I, what do I need for myself? And you always talk about nurturing oneself. So protecting my joy has allowed me to stop being a hunter, right? And it's allowed me to actually let life provide and support. I think as a salesperson, you always are the person carrying the bag. So you think you're the one that needs to drag the deal across the line. I had to change my behavior. I had to be like, okay, I'll drag it, I'll bring it across the line, give it to me. I mean, it's not like I'm not a hard worker. Because once it shows up, I'm on it, kind of a thing. So the idea of stepping back a little bit, no longer hunting, and allowing life to provide, because life is generous. I also came into my perspective of life is faithful as well. So having the belief that life will support me, that life is faithful, that life is generous. If you can sit in those beliefs as a salesperson, your behavior starts to change, because you no longer have the mentality of lack, right? You kind of change your mentality into, oh, things are abundant. How do I look at this as abundant, right? So that life meets that abundance that you're being.
Right. That's beautiful. I think a nice way to capture this for people who are listening, and by the way, anyone who's tuning in, please, any ahas, any takeaways that are arising for you, please share them in the chat so that we know what's really landing and helpful for you. But I think the concept that you're pointing to with these shifts is this one primary shift in how you look at things, which is instead of you being the provider for everything, like you said, I'm the one holding the bag, it's a shift to life is the provider. So how do I have a relationship with life so that I can allow life to provide and support me rather than I have to go out and get it, the hunter mode? Yeah, that's
yes. Exactly.
I was imagining hearing people listening to this going, okay, well, if you stop, what do you do? So maybe you can speak a little bit to that, because that's always one of the first questions. What do I do if I'm not doing?
Well, you have to, first of all, you don't, I don't know, it's hard to go from like 60 miles an hour to 0, right? So you kind of have to almost slow yourself down a little bit, but stopping can just be about not, it's almost like you have to breathe. Like so as an example, if you get an email that's rouse your feathers and you're like, oh, I got a salt from a customer. Here's a good example. This week, there was a customer that was not happy with something. And I was like, okay. And in the past, I would have been like, okay, I got to go solve this for them. I got to go make them happy, whatever. Instead, I just stepped back and I breathed. And I even said, you know what, I'm going to solve this, or I'm not solve it, but I'm going to give this some space so that whatever the solution is will come to me and it'll be perfect for both of us, right? Kind of a thing. I mean, we had a call with the customer even, and I actually asked one of my counterparts to buy me more time because I didn't have a solution yet. And that was okay. Like nobody had a problem with that. It's funny how we think when we got to go solve something, we think the repercussions are going to be, if we don't solve it, the repercussions are going to be bad. And that's, I guess, the thing of like, you stop. So what do? I guess you breathe, right? You just sit with it. Sometimes I'll listen to music. I'll just turn on music. I'll do something different. I'll watch a video of my grandchild. I'll walk away. I'll just walk away, go to the fridge. I just don't do anything. But the belief that I'm coming from and the reason why I can stop is because I believe life will support. Life will support with an answer, right? Life will support with something more divine of a solution than probably I can come up with. So I'm going to give that space for that to show up. That's kind of why I can probably stop. Yeah.
I love it. Beautiful. I heard you say some key words that we talk a lot about with these simple shifts: space, stop, breathe. Those are all being practices that we start to contribute to ourselves. We don't have to get rid of the hunting, but we're just starting to balance it out with all these other being skills that have been malnourished. So I love seeing how you've really integrated that into your way of being. That's beautiful. Okay, so now let's talk about receiving bigger abundance. So you already talked about being able to take time and not do without guilt as sort of an inner expression of abundance. Is there more that you want to say about other ways that you've received more abundantly on an inner level?
I think a lot of it is, I noticed I've changed as an individual, right? I think I've built a little bit more love for myself and grace for myself, where it's like, I think I'm ready to do some bigger stuff, right? Like once you get the whole worth thing. And I had a download one time that, trying to find your self-worth, work on your self-worth is almost like, an ego inner critic that you're not good enough, right? But that was kind of interesting for me. But so once I started to care more for myself, I felt more confident and courageous to be able to step forward a little bit more. I'm able more to express without feeling the whole idea of feeling safe and protected. There was a lot more of that in me where I didn't have, so it allowed me to express better, I guess, if you will, right? And it allowed me to step forward without all the thoughts and ideas of being unsafe, unprotected, and anything like that. That's some of the inner shifts that I've had that have been great.
That's beautiful. And I know a lot of people can relate to that. Just that inner critic is on 24/7. It's just always there. Not enough, got to do more. Why am I not productive? Why, what else do I need to do? So just the quiet, just things like quiet. And that makes space, like you said, for that self-expression. That's really
I mean, one of the things I'm doing right now is actually trying to really pay attention to that inner critic. Is it a female? Is it a male? Is it a voice of a super happy-go-lucky person? It's just kind of interesting how I noticed it showing up. It's a her, and I haven't given her a name yet, but it's kind of interesting how you can start to, because then once I hear her, then I can continue with your tools. I could stop, I could be aware, right? Like, yeah.
And nurture. And
yeah, exactly.
Beautiful. So what about your material world? What abundance have you been receiving there?
Well, it's funny because I think when we did the Focus and Flourish program, I don't know if it was the first one I did with you, but I was like, I remember texting you and going, oh my gosh, I had a 6-figure deal just show up in my lap. I didn't have to go hunt for it. And it was one of those ones that closed super quickly that I was like, oh, and what made it great is it kind of changed my beliefs about no, sales process takes a long time. No, sales process, you got to do this. No. I was like, oh, this is way easier. So I've had a couple of those already. But I will say sales ebbs and flows, right? So there are moments that are great and there are moments that are not, but what makes it really great with what you teach and what you provide is you can go through it peacefully, like the highs and the lows. It's just awesome. Some other things is physically, we had sold our condo pretty quickly and we had to find a place to live. And I mean, moving, if anybody's moved before, you know what that's like. And then so selling and not having a place to live was super stressful, but that came up pretty quickly with life, believing that life supports, believing all of that stuff that came up, I think within 1 or 2 weeks for us. And we didn't just want to go anywhere, right? So we wanted it to be a place where we would both really enjoy. And so we went to this place that has great amenities, couple golf courses for my husband. So it's ended up to be, that was really good. And then just the people that are starting to surround me. from a physical perspective. Like I'm starting to build friendships because we just we recently moved, but even from a health perspective, as I get more mature, I've always wanted to have a team around me that would help me age well, right, and still have livelihood. And that team has showed up around me, so that's been awesome.
Wonderful.
And money always triggers everyone, and I can't say that it doesn't trigger me, but it's been easier around that. It's definitely been easier when that ebbs and flows, or right. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. And again, this deepening, I love seeing you as, there's one thing to hear these ideas intellectually. It's another thing when you really embody it, like you don't even have to trust. It's like there's a deeper knowing. And that's what I've been able to witness in you. It's like, yeah, life does provide, and life is faithful, and there is a flow because everything ebbs and flows. But the thing that this was born from in my own life, I'll just share this little story. I went through this 1.5 years when I was trying to launch my kids to college and getting ready for, I went from 0 to 2 kids as twins in 60 seconds, and then 2 to 0 kids in the empty nest like that. And I had all this anxiety coming and all of these things that needed to happen, college and graduation trips and the emotional stuff. So for 1.5 years, I had all of these hopes and dreams and wishes of what I wanted to see happen with this last time that we had. So much stress, so much I had some of these tools, not quite the way it is now, but it was a stressful time. And after 1.5 years, I look back at my manifestation board in the kitchen, and every single thing I wanted manifest. And I'm like, I am never doing this again where I torture myself, because life provided, not because I worked hard, but because life always offers kindness. And that knowingness, rather than like trying to convince yourself to believe it, but where you actually just relax into it, that's happened for me. And I see that that's happened for you. Like you said, it's just things ebb and flow, but there's just so much peace around it. There's a knowing in the abundance of life.
But wait, I guess with everything that I've learned from you is taking the time to stop and remember that in the midst of turmoil.
Right.
Is where the beauty lies for me. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Stopping in space.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have one more question.
Okay.
What would you say for everyone who's watching? Hey, BK, great to see you. What stands out for you about what's become possible by unlearning struggle and exploring the power of being? What's become possible?
Well, I think I mentioned that I myself has changed in my behavior, in the way I think, in the way I present myself to the world. I also realize that I'm the one who limits myself based on the inner critic, based on everything that I've learned socially. So the possibilities is like to the moon now, whether I want to step forward into it. There is the belief that needs to happen around all of that. But I think that as we expand, we can continue to expand even more. And so for me, it's all about more expansion. It's like, where do I take my presence now in this world, right? And start to share with others what I have learned as well. But even from a health, relationship, financially, I think that once I'm aware of where I'm limiting myself, those limits can be removed just by practicing what you teach. Yeah. I don't know where I want to go, because that's a mind thing, but I can feel the essence of, being calm, being excited about what's going to show up, and being super thrilled when it shows up. That's kind of, I guess that's where I come from now.
That's beautiful. Thank you for that. It's been wonderful to witness. So we're going to start to bring some things to a close. I really invite and encourage, if anybody has any questions for Thelma or myself before we wrap up everything, please post them in the chat. There's a little bit of a delay, so that will give us some time to receive your questions. And it was something you said, I wanted to just, address that last piece. Receiving abundance for me is about so much more than people just getting what they want. And it's what you talked about, like, who do I want to be in the world? And I am passionate about offering, for anyone who this might resonate for, that the greatest impact we can make to make the world a better place is when we ourselves thrive, because when we thrive, others around us can thrive. But if we remain in survival mode, in doing mode, you're finite, you're limited in what you can give because you're trying to just get the next thing. So having it be easy, having life provide, accessing these being tools where your presence might actually be, which I believe it is, more powerful than your productivity, that liberates us to be the contribution that we want to be, because it's within the vast majority of creatures on this planet. We want to give, and the only reason that we don't is because we don't feel we have more to give. So we go back to surviving, and then it brings out an operating system that's based in fear and lack rather than abundance and flow. So thank you for giving voice to that. That's my, your contribution to what I'm also passionate about. And I got some questions coming in, so I'll ask that in a moment. Just a couple announcements. First of all, for anyone who would like to learn more about how do you practice being, what is this process? I teach 3 simple steps that you use for everything. It's called the Receive Method. And you can learn more about 3 simple steps to stop settling, stop waiting, and get what you want now. I'm doing a brand new masterclass on May 18th. You can go to whatifitwaseasyclass.com and you can learn more there and get all the details. Also come by, let's see here, April 27th at 5 Pacific time will be our next interview. I believe it's with Robin. And so we're going to have another wonderful interview for people to partake from. So that's my announcement. So Thelma, let's check out here some questions. Okay, so we have, oops. All right. BK said, great info. Of course, the greatest experience of this live stream for me is to hear others on the same journey as I am on. Yes, yes. And this is from Irene. Can you give us more examples about how you went against your instinct to solve the problem where it turned out better than you could have expected?
So stopping, right? Breathing and even counting. Closing my eyes, 5 or from 10, right? And then even a mantra, life is supportive, life will provide the divine solution. It's like, I think you talk about letting the emotion, because that's an emotion that's in us right now, right? When we get triggered, letting that, I'm honoring that emotion. So realizing, oh, this has got me angsted, this has got me stressed out. So honoring that and letting it subside. And I will say that when I first started, it's something, I feel like it's a belief is like a skill you actually have to build and develop. Like eventually I believed that life was supportive, right? I didn't believe right off the bat because I was busy carrying the bag myself. Right. So I continued having to say to myself, life is supportive, life will help me here. And then once the emotion or the energy released, there was some space. It was kind of interesting because I remember one time something happened and I went for a walk. I'm like, I'm not gonna do anything here. And when I came back, other people stepped in and it was solved. Right. So it's a matter of whether you allow that to happen by creating space for kind of life to come in and help support you. Yeah, but breathing, closing my eyes, counting to 10, walking away. Yeah, just whatever I needed to do.
Could you say a little bit, so being in my orbit for so long, that one of the tools that I am passionate about is willingness affirmation. Can you say a little bit about how that has played a role?
Yeah, yeah, that's been huge because I think that I'm willing to, I can't remember my mantra though. I think it might've been, I'm willing to have life support me was the mantra here, right? I'm willing to step away and allow life to come in and provide the divine solution. Could have been it, but yes, I definitely use the willingness statement throughout the transition, if you will, as well.
Yeah.
I'm willing to believe that life will take care of it. Life will help me here. I'm willing to believe in this. Yes.
So I wanted to highlight, because that's that's probably our go-to tool for so much of the being practices, because it gives your mind something different than problem solving and something to do when you're stopping. Because that's like, so, okay, that's what you do is you say your willingness affirmations. And the reason that's so powerful is your consciousness creates your reality. So now your direction is not going towards lack, but towards the abundance of willing, and your whole being is aligned. You're saying a statement of like, I am willing to support me. So you just say it over and over and over again. And then that becomes the bridge that nurtures the next abundance that you receive, which, oh my God, I actually do believe this now.
That's interesting. You say that because when you're in angst and you take the time to step away, I try to get to the point where I'm like, that I feel it. Like there's that peace or that calmness. I'm like, okay, that is it. And whether it's the willingness statement, sometimes that worked. But I bridged like you said, I do it until I get to the point where I can feel that calmness in myself.
Right. That's great. And that also speaks to another practice that we talk a lot about is self-soothing. So we soothe, like that soothing helps you get to that like relief. And when you feel relief, then there's that spaciousness in your body. Then you become the embodiment of an invitation to life. So that looking for where's the relief, like I said, whatever it takes, how can I find relief? So we just explore different tools, and then people, as you do, find the things that work for them. Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. All right. So a thank you from Irene. And I don't see any other questions, although she likes the name, What If It Was Easy? So, all right. So again, for those of you who are interested, you can learn more about some of these. There's also an ebook called What If It Was Easy? Again, by the same title. So we've got an ebook and also the workshop. So you can go to whatifitwaseasyebook.com, learn more there. Thelma, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
I know this is going to be a big contribution to other people, and I look forward to connecting on the next Q&A. All right. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.